have a list? So in the interest of us getting all the information down, because the planning board feels that the input that comes from the public is very important, what I'll ask you not to do, if we have multiple people that are come up, try not to repeat what the person said before, you know, unless you're making some kind of emphatic statement about that. But let's try to keep it as succinct as possible and try to keep the presentations to a couple of minutes. And we're getting this information down, we're all writing, so I would ask that, you know, we move through as quickly as possible, because there are quite a number of people here this evening. But certainly we want to make sure that everyone who has anything on their mind gets to be heard. So we'll ask first, we'll just take it as people signed up. Joe Miller, 276 West Avenue. Joe, if you want to, Ms. Miller, if you want to make some comment, please. Feel free to speak nice and loud. Give us your name and home address, please.
Okay, so it's Josephine Miller, 276 West Avenue. So I live right on that street.
Yes.
So I have a couple of concerns and also a question for the developers.
We'll write that down.
Okay, one concern is, you know, I hear about a deck on the clubhouse and the deck on the structure itself. So is there going to be music? Are we going to be dealing with noise problems? That's one concern. The other concern is, I'm not sure, and maybe I didn't hear, where will the parking be? If I'm heading down my street from north to south and I pass the Mulford Street and I look to the right, okay, I see this, but will I see a parking lot?
It's on the other side.
Can I drop this one? This is the smaller, the more zoomed out version of the
Okay.
site plan.
Okay, so this is West Avenue. Am I right? Or am I-
Yes.
Okay. What will the landscaping be to screen from the street?
We will, in the past, as you know, we've done some very thorough landscaping plans as we got to those stages. And as a matter of fact, I recall in one particular iteration of the plan, we had them draw it as if you were standing on the corner of West Avenue and Mulford Street, and what that would look like. And we would do that again, so that you're not standing there looking at, you know, so you'll know ahead of time what it theoretically should look like
Okay.
once the plants grow. So it's a valid question.
So I have one
Well,
question.
I could say that all of our plans, all the previous iterations of this project have all had extensive vegetation plans, so that there was shielding and buffers added to neighboring homes. Of course, we never saw any of them grow up, but they were all there.
Good point, Mr. Rocco. Okay, so I have, I think, an important question for the developers. No question this will change our street. The area will look different and be different. The developers will have hopefully a successful project. And what will we get? In other words, can the developers tell us why the residents of the street and the surrounding areas should be in favor of this project? That's what I would like to hear.
Okay, very good, very well said. Thank you.
Good
Tom
question.
Gilmore, 62 South Ocean Avenue.
Yeah, how you doing? So I work down in industrial coverage, right down here, right around the corner. Been entrenched in the business community for the last 10 years. We see the economic and business growth down there in the main village, and I think a project like this is extremely important to be able to support the business growth, and just knowing the developer and what he has done in Farmingdale, as I have family over there, I think he's the perfect man for the job. So just a quick statement, no questions.
And you live at 62 South Ocean?
I work at 62 South Ocean.
What's your home address?
My home address is Massapequa.
Okay. Regina Bykov, 11 Milford Street.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I step out.
Regina.
So right, I speak to my wife?
Tony, you can speak. You want to speak on behalf?
Yes, please, thank you.
All right.
So right, if I just,
Name and address, please, for the record.
sure. It's Tony Bynum, 11 Mulford Street, Patchogue.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, I made copies, if I could just pass it back to.
Absolutely. Approach.
Thank you. I just wanted to be a lot easier. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I was surprised and disappointed to see this article made no mention of the many negative ways that development like this can impact our wonderful neighborhood. This article leaves the reader with many false sense that the residents have only concerns about the building height. The article also indicated that Mr. Barton is confident in the quality of the land for residential use, even saying that residents would prefer this project over other options. Speaking from a resident's point of view, I can assure you this is not correct. There are several things that we would like to name. Keep it short. The proposed development does not fit in this predominantly residential, single and two-family neighborhood. The most compelling graphic I've seen is a rendering of a 3-story apartment building located directly on the water in the news article. While it may be true that the west side of Patchogue River is occupied by various commercial and industrial use and condo and apartment developments, our neighborhood is predominantly comprised of homes as opposed to condo apartment developments. Many would like to keep it this way, and I think it's a smart development should allow for this. Biggest concern is our additional traffic congestion. While the speed bumps installed by the village have helped speeding, this is still an ongoing issue for the residents on Milford Street. Cars routinely exceed the 30-mile-per-hour village speed limit on our street while driving between South Ocean Avenue and West Avenue and do not slow down. Additionally, while there are 3 stop signs located along Milford, West Avenue, Cedar, and South Ocean Avenue, many drivers do not fully yield at these stop signs and continue to recklessly speed down the street with blatant disregard for the residents who live here. A large development like this one being proposed will inevitably lead to increased traffic on the road where a traffic problem already exists. This will not only affect Milford Street, but will also affect our neighboring streets on the side as well. All the concern is parking concerns. Parking in the neighborhood is inadequate for the current residents as is, and is only compounded during the summer when the Orr Seafood and Grill is operating at its peak. A large development like this one being proposed will inevitably lead to additional people and visitors seeking alternate parking that simply do not exist. And again, this will not only affect Milford Street, but will also affect the neighborhood on surrounding side streets. We also have environmental concerns. No information in the article has ever been provided regarding site due diligence or potential environmental impacts. We'd like to know if an SEQR has been performed. The construction concerns also is our neighborhood will become a construction site, including the possibility of digging up our road again to accommodate utility installation. Just a few short months ago, residents went through this. Our yards and roads have still not been restored to their pre-existing conditions. Additional concerns are noise, dust, odor, additional traffic concerns, and site runoff. Proposed river access does not adequately compensate for the substantial drawbacks of our proposal. Residents already have easy access to the river in short walking distance. This should not be considered adequate payback to the community for development.
Thank you, Mr. Barton.
Thank you.
Make sure that your remarks are made part of the record.
Thank you.
Kathleen Bates. Hi.
Hi, good evening.
Could you state your name and address, your home address?
Sure, my name is Kathleen Biggs and I live at 18 Mulford Street.
Okay.
I have been born and raised in Patchogue, in which I take great pride in. My husband and I are homeowners on Mulford Street. We bought this home due to its charming aesthetics and rich history. When I stumbled upon the article published on the Greater Patchogue website on January 19th titled Waterfront Luxury Apartments Planned for Patchogue River Property, I was extremely disappointed. Being born and raised in Patchogue, I have seen the village when it has been desolate. The new businesses and life that has been brought back to the historic town has been a delight to see. Yet when does our town start becoming over-commercialized? I live in a residential area, which I obviously sought out when I made the biggest purchase of my life. I am now uneasy about the future of our neighborhood that I call home. What do I have to look forward to? Walking to the end of my driveway to view a luxury apartment complex? This area is home to historic homes that are unique and diverse. How will a luxury apartment complex keep with the aesthetics of our neighborhood as it towers 3 stories high? As I sat and read the article published on the Greater Patchogue website, numerous concerns surfaced. My first concern is the added traffic that will come with the magnitude of this complex. Mulford Street has an issue, as previously stated, with high traffic volume. This is a neighborhood compromised with families who value living in a safe neighborhood. Adding 50 luxury apartments will add on average, about 1 to 2 added cars to the existing volume of traffic? How many of us have experienced the backup of cars south of the tracks when the train comes in? Once you make it through that section, you then approach Reveley Avenue, and a majority of the time it is backed up, as is the traffic circle. Another concern, quite frankly, is just taking away from our neighborhood. This is our home that we come home to every day after a hard day's work. Patchogue is beautiful, with its water views within walking distance. How will this complex benefit the existing residents? Is putting another luxury apartment complex the best option? Within a published article, it stated for a 1-bedroom apartment, it will cost on average $2,500 a month. As a young woman who works a full-time job, I see my fellow peers within my age demographic looking to stay within the town they love. Do you think $2,500 single apartments are a realistic goal for people to attain monthly? I understand that everyone wants to bring new opportunities for buyers in this current market, but where does the loyalty to locals come into play? Referring directly to the published Greater Patchogue article, stated, he's confident in the quality of the land for residential use, saying residents would probably prefer the project over other options. May I ask, what other options were given? What residents or locals were surveyed? Do you live on Mulford Street or the surrounding areas? Another issue that has become apparent after reading the article refers to when it states that the extensive environmental studies were performed. What studies were performed that deemed it environmentally beneficial? As stated, previously being a resident, or currently being a resident on Mulford Street, during heavy rainstorms, that selected area floods. What if a storm like Sandy hit again? Would it be structurally sound? Lastly, again, directly quoting from the published article, it stated, we understand with any development there comes a degree of anxiety, but we believe this is to be the highest and best use to the site. This used to be the location of an oil company, and we think residents would prefer this rather than oil tanks and trucks rolling down the street. Again, I posed the question, did anyone ask what the residents would prefer? I know I do not speak for everyone, but as a resident, a taxpayer, and a homeowner on Mulford Street, this is not what many of us would prefer. Please think of our long-term quality of lives as residents. Why not use this land to benefit the community? When I say community, I mean locals who pay to live in the town of Patchogue, that many were born and raised in. Thank you for your time.
Claire Siegel.
Claire Siegel, 90 years old, not one of those young people that I have serious considerations. Has there been an environmental impact study done on this property before this gentleman wanted to bring it? Do we have one? Well, I got news for you. There's soil contamination there. Has anyone tested the soil? I'm an old lady, I've been in the town a long time, and I remember gassing up my boat at Marin's, buying fuel from Marin's. And I think that property is contaminated.
Ma'am, my uncle Toby Barr worked there a long time ago. He told me a lot of oil was spilled on that site. I don't know exactly answer your question. My understanding is, if you remember, quite a few years ago, there were huge piles of sand at that site. Anybody can correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that site was completely remediated, and I'm assuming had to be inspected.
You are
and checked.
assuming.
Well, I would also assume that more soil test things would be done at this
You
point.
know, the word assume, take it
I've heard that
apart.
too.
The word assume is ask you me when you spell it. Anyway, I've been wondering how pure the ground is
Good question.
there, and where is the proof of it, that it's good place to build. Second, my previous speaker spoke about the height of the buildings. They're higher than any of the permits that you give for 3-story houses, so that's taking advantage. I was concerned about the sewerage. If they attach themselves to the village sewerage, that's all of 50 plumbing units of sinks, bathrooms, showers, and washing machines. That will impact our sewer plant. If they do their own, it'll be on the edge of the river, and if something goes wrong, it'll pull into the river. The gentleman and the previous speakers had plenty to say about traffic and parking. I agree with them. I'm also concerned about Mulford Street. Their property seems to take over Mulford Street at the end. Isn't this a public street? Don't the people in the town own it? What right have they to put a building over a public street and then be generous and tell us we can go through a tunnel to get to our own natural waterfront? Please consider that. I think you are favoring, or not favoring, but I think the place is taking advantage of a public street that we pay taxes for, and then denying us the privilege of just walking down the street, as Ms. Bates would say, to see the bay, do our fishing, do whatever we want. It's quality of life. Last, there's no need to build more apartments or condos in Patchogue. This is a small village. We already have them on West Avenue, North and South Ocean Avenue, Main Street, off of River Avenue at the traffic circle, on Ryder Avenue, off Street and Maple Avenue. I don't think we need any more, and I urge you to turn down this apartment plan and get a good environmental study as well.
Thank you very much. Stephanie Sherman? Please say name and address for the record, please.
Stephanie Sherman, I live at 310 Cedar Avenue.
Go ahead.
Okay, Claire just spoke to one of the things I have a question about. Did you sell them the end of Mulford Street?
We have no, this board has nothing to do with the other.
Or was it sold to them? I don't know. I'm not
Nothing was
seeing
sold to them. That's still an issue that has to be dealt with at the village board level.
it. Okay, is it up for sale? I mean, could I buy it if I wanted to?
They're gonna make a proposal to the village board of some sort. That's something that the village board will have to handle.
Okay, because if it's for sale, I might be interested in stopping one of my ferries down at the end of the street there, because we're kind of short on room.
I suggest you tap them in.
Okay. My second question is about this right-of-way. The drawings, you all have drawings that I don't have, but I came to the village hall and looked at it this afternoon. It looks like they're showing the right-of-way is 34 feet wide.
Could be.
Well, my deed shows 50 feet. That's why I'm questioning how it got to be 34 feet, because you're not allowed to impede a right-of-way. And if they're coming out with anything onto the right-of-way, I'd like to know about it, because we have tractor trailers come in there, not just my business, but there are a couple of businesses in there. And tractor trailers are in and out of there all the time. And they need to be able to get in there, they need to be able to get out of there. And if they're gonna put anything out into that right-of-way, it's hard to make a right turn in there now when someone's coming out. I can't imagine if they,
Can't put anything into the right of way.
well,
Whatever the right of way
the
is.
drawing showed something like a curb or something in the right-of-way. That's why I'm asking.
It's showing that the right of way itself is 50.24, and yes, it does show like
Do you see the
Curve. Yeah.
property line and then there's a curve
Well,
out?
that's why I asked that question. It's an unencumbered right of way. There'll be no, just that there'll be asphalt ending at their property line and then it goes back into Bluestone, that's all. No line, no berm, no gate.
Nothing's going to cut, because there's a fence
That's
there
what
now.
they told me, nothing.
There's a fence there
nothing.
now, more, delineating the property.
On the site plan we're looking at, there's nothing going in the right way.
Okay, so what I looked at this afternoon showed a curb or something in the right of way.
That's why I asked them that question, they said no.
yeah, this colored rendering does show trees and things of that nature in there, but there wouldn't be anything able to go.
Again, this is premature.
Okay.
We're not doing
I just want to
site
make sure
plan.
that you're aware of that,
Yeah.
that's drawn in there, that
Appreciate that, thank you.
I don't want them putting something that's going to make it impossible for the trucks to get in. Okay? Thank you.
Thomas Cook. Cook, please state name and address for the record.
Thomas Cook, 27 Alexander Avenue. I live in Blue Point. This is Mark Valenti, 17 Wilston Avenue. Patchogue.
Talking about this application?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I just wanted to, a lot of what I was going to say was already stated by
Okay.
the first people. I just wanted to say that I'm in support of it. I think it's a beautiful project. I think it's something the town needs. And I hope it's best.
Okay, Mr. Cook. Sir, you have any comment?
No, it's kind of the same thing. I think it's actually,
Moral support?
yeah, I think it's, yeah, well, I think it's a boatyard now, right? If I'm correct, it's land that's not developed at all. So I think it'd be actually
Basically,
nice.
upland storage for boats at certain points.
Right.
And,
This would clean it up, sort of, I think.
yes, I used to. We'll clean it up and develop it to
Yeah.
whatever it's going to develop.
Thank you.
Pat McAfee?
Pat McAfee, 92 Cedar Avenue. I can't say it any better than those who spoke before me said it. And certainly, I mean, I'm an accountant by trade, and accountants aren't exactly known for being very eloquent, so I'm going to do my best here. But I do want to give you kind of my personal take on this. I live on the corner of Mulford and Cedar. And I've lived there for 2 years now. My wife and I, a couple of years ago, we were moving back to Long Island. We had lived in Boston. And we wanted to move back. We grew up here. We grew up in Center Mauritius. So we did. We moved back. And we moved back to Center Mauritius, which is only 15 minutes away, but it's a world apart from Patchogue. Honestly, it was a little bit boring. So we started looking around, and we looked not at Patchogue first. We looked at different cities. We looked, honestly, anywhere in a 10-mile radius we were looking at. We wanted something that felt like it was moving in a good direction, a place with a vision. And we were spending so much time in Patchogue. I was doing my search for this new place in the coffee shop. We were going to dinner and talking about it at Reese's. And eventually we just looked at each other and we're like, this is where we want to be. So we bought our first house here 2 years ago. And we're very proud to call Patchogue home. Our neighborhood is fantastic. It's like nothing we could have ever asked for. Everybody knows each other. They look out for each other. A year ago, we welcomed our first son into the world, and he is sick tonight. If he wasn't, he's 10 months old. I think he'd probably be here trying to state his opposition to this. I can't quite make out the words yet, but I think he would be talking something about how, as everybody else said, traffic. I don't think that this is going to have a great impact on traffic. Cars are already flying through all of those intersections. There are stop signs there, but after a while you got to go up close, see if there's some small print that says optional. There's not, I've checked. So I do think this is going to have an impact on traffic. I do think it's already dangerous. And I already consider whether this is the place. Only after 2 years, I look at this traffic and I say, is this where I want him riding a bike? I don't know. Now, when I was in Boston, I was studying city planning. I was working in community development. And I serve now on the community development board here in Patchogue. And from a city planning perspective, now this does have some nice points. Patchogue is an attractive place, and a lot of people do want to live here, and some could say there's a need for more housing. Now, is this the answer? I'm not sure. But I look at this rendering, and while it's nice, and there are some nice elements, those roofs look nice and whatnot, and different elevations and depths to the building. If you're a pedestrian, and if I'm walking down to the end of the street like I like to now, you have to envision this from the pedestrian's perspective. Not from this, because nobody's ever going to see this nice zoomed out picture. What you're going to see, if you're that person, that little shadow standing there, is not those beautiful roofs. It's a big concrete wall. It's a big blank wall staring at the neighborhood. And this tunnel, to echo what everybody else said, I'm trying to envision what 10 by 34, is that what it is? I'm trying to envision what that looks like as a pedestrian. And I'd love to get a measurement on this. I think it's probably something like that, which honestly, that doesn't look like something I'd like to walk through. I have concerns about how this impacts the pedestrian life in that area. And I have concerns to, at a higher level, how does that affect those who live there now? How does that affect whether we want to live there long term? So, yeah, personally I have some qualms with the design. It's not, I think it was described as cottagey, and that doesn't exactly scream cottage. But that's personal. That's my personal opinion. I think that the question for the board here is really, is this the vision that the community wants to move towards? I think that what we're considering here is not just, do we like the rendering? Do we like the roofs? I don't think the discussion is just, I don't even think it's just about height, elevation. I think it's about setting precedent for the riverfront, and I think it's about where we want this all to move in the coming 10 years, 50 years, 100 years. What do we want to do with that riverfront? And as you could see from this turnout, I don't think it's this. Thank you.
Mike Soto?
Good evening, everybody from the board.
Sir, can you have your...
My name is Frank Soto. I live at 226 North Prospect Avenue in Patchogue. I live on the north side, but my daughter lives on West Avenue also. Couple questions I have is sewer district. Okay. One is I also run my business at 200 West Main Street, right in front of the sewer district, which at this point right now, they're taking 4 tankers at 9,000 gallons a day, over a day. By 7 a.m., 1 tanker's already gone. I can tell you the schedule, how the trucks come in and leave. Okay, so 50 more people, or 50 more apartments, or housing, whatever you want to call it, adds to the sewer district. So you have to look at the fact that between that, they're trying to get River Avenue onto the sewer district and everything else. Is anybody talking about doing something about the sewer district? And who's paying to truck all these trucks to Babylon, to the treatment center? Are the village residents paying for that as we speak? Because that's a big thing also. The second thing is the overall height. After the FEMA height, I heard her say 45 feet total, or is it 45 feet from the FEMA height higher? So what's the total overall height from the floor to the top floor is the other question I have.
I'll get that answer for you.
Okay? And third is, I love the Patchogue River. I've been on the river. I grew up at 55 Mulford Street, which is where I was born as a kid. Okay? And if you're sitting at Davis Park at the casino, are you going to see this structure? Because I know from the casino you can see the Brookhaven Dome pretty much. So what's the actual height? So if I'm at the beach, I'm at Davis Park, am I going to see this structure looking up the river? It's probably going to be the highest structure in Patchogue on the river. So that's another thing you should think about. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Casey
good evening. I'm at 220, 216, see, 220 is my neighbor. 216 West Avenue, that's my house right there. So literally this structure would be in the back of my yard. So I just, again, want to just make it quick and...
You're on the corner house?
No, that's 220, I'm 216, I'm one in, but my neighbors are here too. We don't have their name written down, but. Okay, so they agree with what everybody else is saying about opposing. So I really want you to take your time and do your consideration. We were here in a meeting 2 years ago, I believe, and there were me, my husband, and my parents. That was it. So in 2 years, look how much we've really grown as a community and brought in, you know, just built up our community. It's amazing to see. So I completely agree with Josephine, Tony, Mrs. Biggs, Mrs. Siegel. Those are the names. I forget your name. I'm so sorry. But and my daughter, who's 7 months, is here tonight because agreed. Like she's going to be having to walk to middle school on South Ocean, and I'm very concerned with the increase of traffic. All the things that people are saying. Something also that I'm a little concerned about is if we try to resale. So we bought our home as a water view front home, and now it's not going to be. So that's a little concerning for me as well, as an investor and a resident. And I just also want to say that so far the people that have come up and that have supported the actual building aren't residents here. So that's something I think you should really consider. They're not the ones, you know, gonna open up their back door and have this big monstrosity of a building affecting their everyday life. Thank you.
Thank you. That ends our list. I will give, however, is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak about the application, the opportunity to do so, because you may not have signed the list. Please, could you state your name and address for the record?
Certainly. My name is Tiffany Bowman. I live at 38 Grenville Avenue, so just one block over from
Yes.
West. It just occurred to me when somebody mentioned the peak of the ore when they're operating during the summertime that this property that we're talking about is currently